Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back for part 4 of How to Navigate Uncertainty During a Crisis. It's so good to see your faces again today. All right, I don't have a whole lot of announcements today. Nothing's changed. Same as. The chat will be shut off when we start. We'll bring it back on for Q&A. Make sure you're writing your questions down as David teaches today, because this is the last part. And just as a reminder, if we don't get to your question, or if you have a question later, the best place for you to get that question answered is David's private Facebook group, his private transformation Facebook group. So if you're not already a member, I'm going to ask my team to pop it in chat. And please join. You can put any question in there. Our whole entire team watches it. David reads through that Facebook group. We'll make sure and get your questions answered. All right, let's get started. David?
Hey everybody, how you doing? Glad to be back. Okay, let's go over a couple of things that kind of set the stage for where we're going today. Part of the idea with this is that no matter what the crisis is that's in front of you, there's always an opportunity. And the biggest problem with that is a person has to be able to see the opportunity. How do we see through the lens in our mind to see the opportunity? So let's look at a couple of different things. One, we have us, and we have our subconscious mind. In our subconscious mind, we also have what we call the idea that there are patterns that have been developed in our life out of what we call core wounds. They're core wound patterns, okay? And I just want to give you an idea what that looks like. Here, there. Okay. This is a core wound diagram. I go over this in a lot of depth in Art of Success, by the way. For those of you that are going to come to the Art of Success program, we actually filter out many of the patterns that get developed in us, so we understand how it works. But I want to show you something from the idea of what is it that we're actually seeing, okay? So in our subconscious mind, everybody has some semblance of a core wound. What is a core wound? Well, just to make it really simple, when we're born, we have actually 3 human needs. And those needs are love, security, and self-esteem. Okay? Love, security, and self-esteem. Now let me explain why we have these and how they get jeopardized and turned into something that we would call a core wound, because it's really important that we start to understand this, okay? I am going to just move this over here. Okay, now back to the stick person. Prior to age 7, our subconscious mind looks very much like a fishbowl. And we have these 3 needs that are going on. These 3 needs are there so that we can survive. Now think about this. When you're born, when you are literally birthed into this world, you are linguistically challenged. You do not have the ability to form words. You don't understand words. You cannot understand the language that your parents speak. So we have a problem, right? Biology has a challenge in front of it. What is that? The challenge is that the little baby has to be able to communicate its needs to mom and dad. Mom and dad have to be able to understand what those needs are so they can meet the baby's needs so that that baby can continue to survive. So over a long period of time of uncovering what's actually taking place between, let's just say, mom and the baby, these 2 entities that are communicating back and forth, there's something very fascinating that's going on. Everything that's going on, let's say this is mom, everything that's going on in mom's life, words, sounds, noises, language, emotions, movements, all of this stuff that's going on is literally going into this little child's subconscious mind. And if you remember what I talked about the subconscious mind, it doesn't have the ability to reject the idea. Now, you might want to write that down. It doesn't have the ability to reject. So all this information that mom and dad and siblings or whoever's in that family are experiencing, are demonstrating, including television and radio and internet and all that stuff, all that information is going right into a little child's subconscious mind without any ability to reject. But what else? Without any ability to make any sense out of it. We don't have the ability to critically think when we are in this form. So all of it is going right in, right in, right in, right in. Over a period of time, mom is communicating with us through making noises, through emotion, through gestures of the face, through gestures of the hands. We start to understand what food is. We understand how to communicate food. We start to understand how to communicate when we're happy and we feel good, when we're not happy and when we don't feel good. Bit by bit by bit, the child is learning how to communicate with mother. The mother is registering that communication, feeding it back to the child, and onward that child goes. Now, what happens if there is a breakdown in that communication? If that child, for whatever reason, does not feel like it's getting its needs met, biology says something's wrong here. We have to kind of create some kind of a bridge to get through this part of this difficulty so that the child can get its needs met. What is it? Well, the child will begin to adjust its behavior, right? It will try different things. It may yell, it may scream, it may make noises, it may wave its arms, it may do whatever it is that it can think of doing to try to get the attention of the parent, to let that parent know that it actually needs something, right? And hopefully the parent starts to respond. So the parent's looking at the little baby and it's going, what does this baby need? And it's trying different things to see what it is that the baby needs. And generally, when the baby calms down and is quiet, seems fulfilled, then we think that we've met this child's need. But what happens if the parent is consistently missing the need? Consistently missing it. The child is not being who that child wants to be. It's not stepping into its own authentic side of itself. It keeps readjusting behavior to get the parent's need, to get the parent's attention so that it can get its need fulfilled. Now, in an ideal world, a child would grow up with a relatively healthy set of parents. No parents are perfect, but a relatively healthy set of parents. And the parents would understand something very unique about a human being, and that is that every human being is unique. Every human being is special. Every human being has a purpose in which why they're actually here. And because of that, what they would do is they would start to look for, what is this child interested in? What does the child want to do? What is the unique way that this child is going to begin to express itself? And they would encourage that unique expression. But something else happens for so many more people. Why is it that other things happen? Well, let's take a look at this. If this is the parent right here, and inside this parent, the parent is raised with the idea of, let's say right and wrong. The parent is raised with shame and guilt. So here's something interesting about guilt, shame and guilt. I have never seen a society anywhere in the world that does not use some form, some amount of shame and guilt in its culture and in raising its children. But what's fascinating about it is that kids are not born with this. They're not born with shame and guilt. They are susceptible to it because they're susceptible to the breakdown of a relationship in which at below a certain age, a child's life is literally in danger. Like a child will die if the parents don't take care of it for a certain period of time. We are the longest animal. We're an animal that has the longest amount of time that we actually need to be with a parent in order so that we can be in some kind of well-being. And without that, we're in real trouble. We're in real trouble. So, what's really kind of strange about this idea is that because there is that vulnerability within a person, that if a parent in some way projects onto that child that they should be ashamed of what they did, or they should feel guilty or bad about what they did, what are they also doing in that moment? Because of the way that they're doing this, they're not perceiving love from that parent. They're perceiving that the love is being taken away and the parent is looking upon them judgmentally from various different viewpoints. One of the viewpoints is, if it's shame, the person internalize it as is, there is something wrong with them personally. Something wrong with them personally. Shame says, fundamentally, there's something wrong with me. Guilt says there's something wrong with what I've done. Now, on the surface, it would seem like a healthy amount of these things could help correct behavior. But there's a lot of argument against that idea that a healthy amount of something that can be so negative can actually have such a positive impact, even though we may use it for something positive. If you start to inundate a child's personality with the idea that there's something fundamentally wrong with them, you're basically programming them to look for reasons to verify why there's actually something wrong with them. However, not only is that's not the worst part. The worst part is that the idea of right and wrong, the idea of being embarrassed, the idea of shame and guilt that is inside of this parent has also completely adjusted this parent's behavior. It has adjusted it to the point of what they think is right, what they think is tolerable for them, what they think their behavior should be, what they think that their thinking should be, what they think their religion should be, what they think other people's behavior should be, what's acceptable in the house, what's not acceptable in the house. It touches all the main areas of the big three, which are God, sex, and money. How does a person internalize those? How do they evaluate it? How do they embrace it in their life? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? And when this little child is starting to grow up in this environment, they are testing what is coming into their awareness as they're a child. So they're testing their language, they're testing their body, they're testing the boundaries of everything that they can find boundaries with. And when they run up against something that embarrasses a parent, makes a parent feel ill at ease, makes a parent feel awkward, makes a parent be put in a position where possibly that parent's being judged, what ends up happening is that the parent doesn't literally kind of take this child and find out what is it the child is trying to express, help them find the depths of that expression, find out what's good about it, what's not good about it, what to keep, what not to keep. Generally, they just shut it down. Anything that offends the parent, that makes the parent feel bad, that's not acceptable to the parent as far as the child's behavior goes, it gets shut down and they stop the child from behaving in those ways. Excuse me. Over a period of time, this represents something that can be a bit troublesome because as they continue to do this, the child does not reach into their own soul and say, what am I about? What's my purpose? What's my authentic expression of myself? They start to mimic what is okay and acceptable to the parents. So they're not becoming their full self. Excuse me. They're not becoming the epitome of what they're put here to be. And we end up raising people that become very lost. From a foundational perspective, this child will go into the world and they will start to look for what are the things that I was told that was acceptable and how is that a match made in my world for what is it that I'm supposed to do. So here you have this young adult now who is trying to step into the world. They don't know really what they want to be. They're out there searching for other things that kind of feel good. Does this interest me? Do I like this? Should I do this? What pays the most? What has the most security? And speaking of security, it's one of the biggest things that people actually are dealing with when it comes to this diagram, okay? Here you have the core wound. The core wound is the initial separation from the parents where we have to adapt our behavior to whatever mom and dad say. Shame and guilt then become the guideposts for how we behave in the world. See, once you install these in someone, you don't have to keep shaming and guilting them. They will automatically do it to themselves. They will shame themselves. They will guilt themselves. If they get enough feedback from the outside world, they will be consumed with shame and guilt. And the more consumed they become with it, the more secrets they start keeping. So write this down. Excuse me. Secrets are something that you know that you've done, something that you know that somebody else did, something that you know that was done to somebody else, that is up against your judgment of shame and guilt, and because of that, you do not want anybody to know about it, so you keep it a secret, right? Now, everybody has secrets, and I'm not talking about like secrets for national security. I'm talking about secrets that you don't want anybody to know about because you feel that if they did know about them, you would be judged or not loved or ostracized or thought ill of, or somebody would get in trouble, or it would be not a good thing. And these secrets stack up and stack up and stack up in a person's subconscious mind to the point where it literally keeps crushing them with shame and guilt. Their whole foundation of their self-worth begins to start to shatter because they don't have anything solid to base themselves to feel good on, because they keep reflecting back to the idea of these secrets. They generally will then lead to a couple other things: a core fear and what we call personal negative beliefs. PNB, personal negative beliefs. Personal negative belief is something that runs just under the surface of your radar, and you usually know that a personal negative belief is in play when somebody does something to you that pisses you off. So let's just do a little exercise. Everybody write down 2 things that somebody else does to you that just completely pisses you off, right? Now, let me just clarify this. This is not something somebody does to somebody else and you see them do it. This is not something somebody else does to an animal or to nature or to a government or any. It is specifically to you. Like, I personally hate it every time somebody breaks a boundary with me. Or I can't stand it when somebody dumps their responsibility on me. Or I hate it when somebody talks behind somebody else's back to me. Or I don't like it when I'm criticized by other people. You get the drift? These are things that are done directly to you. They involve you. They're being done to you. Just write down 2 things. Somebody leaves their socks on the floor, right? Somebody uses your personal items without permission, right? Just write down 2 things that piss you off. Now look at those 2 things, right? The reason that those things upset you is because whatever it is that those things mean to you is literally triggering a defense mechanism inside of yourself. That defense mechanism is tied to a personal negative belief about how you see the world, right? It's like an absolute rule for yourself. What does this rule do? It controls the role that you play in life, because it controlled the role that you played when you were a child, and then it literally demonstrates itself in patterns out into your world, out into your life every day. So it controls behavior, your experiences, and your results. And it consistently repeats itself over and over again. And it verifies the core wound. It will verify your shame and guilt. It will verify your secrets. It will verify your core fear, which is usually something that is very significant for most people. The idea of whatever their main core fear is. For a lot of people, it's abandonment, right? Like a core fear of everybody in your life would leave you. You would do something so horrible or whatever that people would just leave you because of it. Like, it's unforgivable in other people's minds. They can't forgive. They're just going to leave. That's it. It's frightening for people. And it's frightening because we're kind of taught in some way that if you don't toe the line, you'll be rejected. Now, we live in a world today that does this a lot. Like this cancel culture that we live in, where if you fuck something up, they don't care if you die, they don't care if you go broke, they don't care if everybody leaves you. Some people want the whole world to just step on you because they don't want you to have a different opinion than they do. Now, why do you think they use that? Because it's so damn effective. Nobody wants to be ostracized like that. People want to be human. They want to be able to make mistakes. They want to be able to be forgiven and make atonement for what they've done. But we're living in a world that is allowing less and less and less and less of that. When that starts to show up in your consciousness, the problem that we have is that we keep those secrets even more because we're afraid. Even if we want to say something, we're afraid because we don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be made wrong. We don't want to lose people that we love. We're scared to death of what's going to happen. Okay, so it goes in deeper and deeper and deeper. The difficulty that we have with this is that it's not just that nobody knows. It goes in and it literally starts to control your behavior and how you see the world and how you show up. Now, what happens when you're in a crisis? What happens when there's things that are literally going wrong in the world? So what is something that a crisis presents to everybody? Think about it now. What does a crisis present to everybody? It presents a challenge, but it also presents the ability to not respond well, right? To have a bad experience. Does it not heighten the ability for us to have a bad experience with something? It most certainly does. So we have to be thinking, how can we think through this crisis in a way so we don't have a bad experience so that we can come out on the other side okay? Well, we also have to ask ourselves another question here, which is, let's see here. There it is. Okay, thank you. Pardon me, I'm learning how to use a new piece of technology. So, okay, all right, so let's take a look at this. So when we actually have this going on where this fear is starting to show its head and we're looking outside of ourselves and we're looking at the possibility of a crisis, we also have the roles. And what are roles? Roles are how we have decided to show up within our familiar family, within our familiar life, and what is the main role that we play. So let's look at a few of these. So when kids are little, very often they play the role that does what? It's the role that gets accepted the most by the people that they're around. So they may have a brother or a sister, like say, that's the smart one, that's the genius, right? And they're not getting all the attention for being the genius, but all of a sudden they find out one day when they have the flu that they get more attention than the sibling who's the genius. Aha! The subconscious mind registers this as one of the top needs, love, security, self-esteem, and it says every time this person's sick, they get a lot of attention. So all of a sudden, unconsciously, they start playing the role of the sick person. For many people, these roles will last a lifetime if they don't recognize and change them if they're not good for a person. It could be the person that gets in trouble all the time. It could be the person that's the smart one. It could be the helper role. This person puts themselves last for everything, but they're the first person that'll be there to help you with everything that you could possibly need help with, if that's what the deal is. They could be the martyr. And I don't care what you do for them, they're always going to fail. It's not going to work for them. Nothing will ever work for them. They're going to fall on the sword for everybody else. That type of thing. It could be the person that blames everybody else. They could be the ultimate victim, right? There's hundreds of these roles. And sometimes it's not just one, sometimes it's multiple roles that a person is taking on. So now you have a crisis. It's not life as we normally know it. Now think about this. If I developed a role when I was a kid and that role is working for me pretty well, I've learned how to adapt to it so I can take care of myself to some degree in my life, right? I'm playing the role. Bam, all of a sudden a crisis shows up. What if my role doesn't fit in the crisis? What if my role doesn't fit in the crisis, right? So we have the COVID thing going on. What if my role is to be sick all the time? Probably not the best role to have in this situation, right? Probably not the best role to have in this situation. What if we have a role that is literally making our problem even more difficult? What if I'm the person that always fails? I'm the one that can't get the lucky break. And now I absolutely need help. What if I'm the person that can't receive help? Because I help everybody else, but now I need help, but I can't receive it. And the government, like they're closing businesses down. I need financial help. Maybe I need help to, how do I pivot my business? I can't ask for help. I don't know how to receive help. So my role starts to get really fucked, because if I don't know how to simultaneously step into another one, I could have complete total destruction of what I know as a healthy lifestyle, because I don't know how to shift my role. I only know how to be in the place that I'm actually in, right? So let's take about 5 minutes, and I want you to write down what are the major roles that you've been playing in your life. Really think about it. What are the major roles that you've been playing in your life, and write them down. There shouldn't be too many. There should be a couple that are dominant, or maybe one that's dominant, but just write them down so you have a really good idea what it is. 5 minutes, go ahead, begin, and we're back. All right, so the idea here is, what is the role that you're currently playing in your life, right? Now, the next thing is, how does that role actually manifest in a pattern in your life? So, let me give you an idea here of what a pattern would look like. But first, I just want to put something out there. What I'm about to show you not only can be used for changing this, but when I go into great depth in the art of success with this, it's also the thing that builds great businesses, and it shows you how to accumulate a lot of wealth. So just keep that in the back of your mind for when you go to Art of Success. It is one of the most magical things that you'll ever see in your life, because it literally can change your perception on what's happening right in front of you. And I've got a little bit of a reading thing that I want to give you along with it. But let's do this other step. A pattern is how the role is showing up in behavior in your life, and it's also showing up in results and how you experience things. How you experience things, okay? So, let me ask a couple of questions, and then you could just jot this down for yourself. Don't share this with anybody. This is just for your own personal use. When you found out the totality of what COVID really was, how did you respond to that internally? Were you excited? Were you afraid? Did you see it as a challenge? Did you think about, how do I be responsible? Did you think, who do I help? Did you think, how do I protect myself? What is it that was like the most dominating pattern of thought in your mind and emotion, right? Just write that down for a second. Okay. If you were to lose somebody because of the disease, and if you had, I'm sorry that you have, but if you were to lose somebody of the disease, what would be the pattern, the dominating behavioral and emotional pattern that you would experience the most? Write that down. In other words, thought and emotion, what would you experience? Okay? Next idea. If you're a person that is in need of help, you need assistance from someone to help get you through the crisis, if they gave you the exact thing you need in full abundance, what would be the thought and the emotion that you would experience in receiving, having that need met? I know that one seems like obvious to people, but it's really not. Some people would feel guilty. Some people would feel bad. Some people would feel that they're not entitled to take that. Some people would feel great. It's very different based on different people, all depending on how they show up in life. Okay? One more. What do you feel is your number one concern and responsibility in life right now? I'm not adding anything to that statement, just in life right now. Okay? Now also keep in mind, one of the things for you to look at is the things that people do to you that piss you off, because that is also patterned behavior. That is patterned behavior. Now, here's what we're going to do. Behind this, for every single person, is number one, some kind of self-preservation. Some kind of self-preservation. The question is, do you, now I want you to really think, because this determines basically where do we make decisions from. Do you make decisions to move forward in your life? Is that the predominant thought strategy behind what you do? Or do you make decisions on how to be safe in life first? Which one is predominant for you? Is it to move forward or is it to be safe? Now I want to share something with you. This is from Working with the Law. It's on the law of success. He says, success is bringing oneself and one's actions to a standard higher than the ordinary human standard. Right? Let me read that again. Success is bringing oneself and one's actions to a standard higher than the ordinary human standard. Most of all the failures and defeats in life are due to mental blindness. Most of all the failures and defeats in life are due to mental blindness. When the heart is right, the head thinks right. All our acts are judged by our inner motives, not by our outer accomplishments. Out of the heart are the issues of life: moral cowardice, indecision, and critical moments, a desire to have one's own way, inability to cooperate, have shattered the hopes of millions. They have wrecked their prospects of success. To eliminate these mental handicaps is the first move for all who wish to aim high. Okay? For all to wish to aim high. So the idea is that, number one, we want to raise our standard in life. We want to raise our standard. The first, wherever we find out we're deficient in an area, we need to raise our standard if we're going to change something. Now he goes on here. He says, most of us could meet our obligations if it were not for fear of some kind that tells us differently. We hypnotize ourselves into a belief which incapacitates our power. Now I'm going to read that again. Really think about this. Most of us, I would say everybody, most of us could meet our obligations if it were not for fear of some kind that tells us differently. What does fear tell you? Right? Like, write that down. What does fear tell me? What is it that fear is saying to me in my mind? It doesn't mean that it's true. It just means that fear is talking to you. We hypnotize ourselves into a belief which incapacitates our power. We hypnotize ourselves into a belief which incapacitates our power. Fear clouds our vision. It benumbs our faculties. It paralyzes our mental forces, which must be free and active if we are to avert calamity. When man's mind is confused by fear, he is in no condition to accept an opportunity. God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of courage and a sound mind. God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of courage and of sound mind. Now write this down. Fear does not, God does not tell you what not to do. God, Spirit, the universe, it always tells you what to do. Now, fear very often speaks to us in telling us what not to do. But, you also have to remember that just because you got some kind of a message in your mind that says don't do this, that doesn't mean that it's fear. And not all fear is bad, right? If you're walking down in a jungle or something and it says don't go into that jungle or don't go into that bush or whatever, That might be fear speaking, but it also might be the best thing that you never did, right? Is there a tiger in there or something? Like, it's not always a bad thing. But when fear is literally controlling us to the degree that we cannot seem to step into what we truly want to do, it causes a major problem for us all the way around. So here's what it is that we're actually looking for. Okay. What we actually want to do is we want to understand, how do we move out of the position that we're in to be able to move forward. So, first of all, higher standard. Higher standard, okay? As we hold ourselves to a higher standard, we are thinking, what is it that we actually want to experience outside of ourselves? We have our results, we have our circumstances, and we have our environment. If we want to change it, if we want to raise it to a higher standard, and that's exactly what we want to do in a crisis. In a crisis, we want to be able to overcome the crisis. We want to be able to move through the crisis. We want to be able to adapt to whatever it is that's happening with the crisis. And there is one thing that I've mentioned that you have to focus in on in order to be able to see yourself to a higher standard, and that is consciously, you have to think gratitude. Gratitude. Now, you may not be experiencing anything that makes any sense to be grateful for. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't, maybe it's a combination. But the gratitude that I'm talking about is coming from a higher level of consciousness. It's coming from the place where, based on your understanding of the law of polarity, there has to be something good about what you're experiencing, even if you don't see it. It has to be there. But your mind's like a radio receiver, like a radio, like an old radio. All of the information that ever was or ever will be is equally present in all places at the same time. Just like a radio station has, say, 40 different stations, and they're all in the room that you're in now, but you can't hear any of them unless you have a radio, and the radio is dialed into the specific station that you want to hear. If you want to hear rock and you put it on the rock station, that's all you hear is rock. If you now want to hear weather and you switch it, you put it on the weather station, instantaneously weather is in the room. If you want to hear sports and you put it on the sports station, rock's not there, the weather's not there, it is now sports, right? If you want to hear religious radio, you turn the sports off, turn on the religious. If you want to hear the news, you turn on the news. If you want to hear the left of the news, you turn on the left station. You want to hear the right news, you turn on the right station. It doesn't matter what it is. The consciousness says to you, if I want to hear something different and I can be specific about the difference, I know what station to turn it to in order to hear that thing. When we are practicing gratitude, and we're not practicing resentment, and we're not practicing anger, and we're not practicing fault finding, and we're not practicing victimization, and we're not practicing all the things that will call us to think about parallel ideas according to those things, when we move into gratitude, we're telling our mind, find me what's right with this. Find me what's good about this. And when I see that out here, I see something that is amazing that exists out here, and that is opportunity. Opportunity. The opportunity that you're looking for to raise your standard, to help other people, to get your needs met, to make more money, to sell more product, to pivot your business, right? To do whatever it is that you need to do is already here. You're being blinded by it somewhat because of a crisis that is reshifting the parameters of how you normally go through the world. And you have to understand that if you don't adapt to that, you will only see what's wrong with things, and that will always come to poor decisions. You have to start looking at what's right, what's right, what's right. How do I do that? I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for everything. And then I start looking for, where is the opportunity for me for me to do good in the world. Because here's the law. You get back what you put out. You get back what you put out. If you put out good, you'll get good back. If you put out something that's not good, you'll get something back that's not good. But either case, it's always there, right? So 2 things. We have 8 minutes left. We're going to go to Q&A. Number 1, I want you to write down as fast as you can. We're going to do about like 6 minutes here. Everything that you're grateful for. And then number 2, where are the opportunities for you to help? Where are the opportunities for you to do good in your life? Okay, 6 minutes, go. Okay, all right, real quick. Let's wrap this thing up here. Here's the 4 questions that I was talking about the other day. I just wanted to give them to you one more time, nice, clear, and concise so that you can see them, right? Anytime you have to make a decision, you bring these 4 questions into it, you run them through these 4 questions, it will bring a tremendous clarity to your mind. Number 1, is this something I want to be, do, or have? If you get a yes, you move on to number 2. Is being, doing, or having this going to take me closer to my goal or my purpose? If you get a yes, you move to number 3. Is being, doing, or having this in harmony with the law of more life? You get a yes, you move to number 4. Is being, doing, or having this going to violate the rights of others? If the answer is no, you make a decision and then you move forward. If you get a no here, that's the end. You don't go any further. If you get a no here, it's the end. You don't go any further. You get a no here, it's a yes. It's the end. You don't go any further. If you get a yes here, that's over. You don't go any further, right? You don't make the decision to do it. Now, one more thing. Let's see here. This is the thing that I want to leave you with. The degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth he can accept about himself without running away. Every single thing that you want, that you need, that is going to catapult you to the next level is here right now. But you have to be able to step into it. If your own internal fear, if your own internal shame, if your own internal judgment is getting in the way, it becomes very difficult to step into that higher sense of truth within yourself. There's absolutely no reason that you can't do it. You absolutely can. But you have to know that if you're running away from something inside of yourself, the best thing that you can do is, number 1, admit what it is. Number 2, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. There is nothing productive about not forgiving yourself. Because all you will do is continue to hurt yourself, which will continue to hurt others, when you will continue to make poor decisions. Forgive yourself and then ask yourself, what do I need to do to change this thing? What do I need to do to make this thing right? How can I move forward in the face of all opposition that might be being presented to me in the world right now, so that I can come out living at a higher standard, have much more clarity of thinking, really making decisions on a place that what is really best for me, so that I can overcome the crisis that is being presented to me right now. Everybody in the world is being presented with a crisis of one sort or another. So many people are being completely, just irrevocably damaged by either decisions that they're making, decisions somebody else is making, or just the absolute paralyzation of fear during a time of extreme uncertainty, and when we're really questioning a lot of information that we get from a lot of different sources, right? We live in a time where we don't know who or what to trust. Some people have an easier time with that than others. Some people don't. If you don't have an easy time with it, don't let the pressure of somebody else make you speed up the way that you do it. Find out inside yourself what's not trusting, so that you can set yourself for a higher standard and you can get the answers to questions made that are much better for you and much better for everybody else. But I guarantee you, the number 1 thing that will help bring clarity of thought and a higher standard of purpose to your life is to bring gratitude into the mix immediately. I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how dark it is. I don't care what's wrong. Bring gratitude in. The moment that you bring gratitude in, it starts to get you to look at the other side of the possibility, which is waiting there for you to step into it. Okay, I love you guys, and we're going to take questions here in just a minute.
All right, fantastic. We are ready to take your questions. If you have a question for David, go ahead and type your name into chat as it is shown on your screen. And while we're waiting for everyone to type their name into the chat, just want to remind you one more time, you do have an invitation to join David at the Art of Success Summit, October 13th through 15th. How many of you have already bought your ticket? Let's just see. Type in me in the chat, just so we have an idea. How many of you are joining us? All right, look at that. Nice. We can't wait to see you guys in just, 3 weeks? 3 weeks?
It's going to be
3.5
amazing.
weeks? Amazing, amazing, amazing. And just so you know, there is an option. If you can't make it all 3 days to the Art of Success Summit, there's an option for you to upgrade for only $97, and that gives you the replays of all 3 days. So if you can make it for 2 of those days, but you're saying no because you're going to miss one, register anyway. You'll get the replays for just an additional $97. And right now, ticket prices are only $247. That price doubles at midnight tomorrow night. So you've got today, the rest of today and tomorrow to make your decision. We hope it's a yes. We hope to see you again in a few weeks. Again, it's October 13th through 15th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. And the team has popped the link into chat. Okay, now I got to go back and search for names of questions. Here we go. First question is coming from Liana. Liana, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. So my question is, what would you recommend me? How can I walk my kids through this? Would it be like essentially the same things that you're teaching us for ourselves in order for us to like follow like those steps and then look within ourselves? It would be the same way that we could kind of teach our teenagers. I have a 14, 15, and 20-year-old.
Absolutely.
And was kind of just wondering.
Absolutely. Yeah. Teenagers pick up on this really quick, and they're very easy to change once you show them how to do it.
Okay, and you're right. It's funny because even throughout these days, no matter, I've been struggling with it a lot internally, but I've been trying not to have my kids kind of get that from me, that sense from me, that my son started wanting to like yard selling and like flipping stuff, and like he started into this mindset of entrepreneurship. Which is, for me at first I was like, oh my God, we can't do this, but everything's online. It's very doable. So I thank you so much for all the information and these 4 days that you gave us. So it really gave me a lot of clarity within myself and a lot of the things that I was struggling before. So thank you guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, next question is coming from Tara. Oh, gotta unmute. There we go. We can hear you.
Great. Yay. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the question. Okay. So you said you asked us to consider how we make decisions and whether we're making them based on moving forward or staying safe. And for me, I'm like, oh, that's easy. I make decisions moving forward, right? And then I really kind of started analyzing, well, do I really? And I think I've made some really big decisions based on moving forward, like really intentionally, is this going to move me forward? However, in my business, I see patterns where I'm like spinning out, I reverse decisions, I'll manifest money, then I'll like lose it, things like that. I'm like, ooh, that is the pattern of playing it safe. So where I see things I'm moving forward in big decisions like moving or buying a car or whatever, but other things are moving forward where I'm playing it safe in other areas. Can you speak to that, or maybe how the roles might be affecting that? Or
I'm having a real hard time hearing the last part of that. What are you asking me to speak to?
How maybe, I don't know where my mic is. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Maybe then why there might be that dichotomy between where some of my decisions I'm moving things really forward, but then why in my business where I'm spinning out, obviously I'm playing it safe, right? I'm making decisions on safety. Obviously there's a terror barrier effect happening. Maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so very much a lot of times when we are looking to play it safe, it's actually a core wound that's causing us to make that decision. It's usually we don't think we're worthy of it, or we don't think that we're lovable. And what it ends up doing is it says, you're not worthy of this, so see this as something that's dangerous or that you shouldn't do. You better play it safe, because if you don't play it safe, you'll end up having this experience. And you have to ask yourself, is this an irresponsible thing that you're doing? Or is it really like, here's the best thing that you can do to move forward, you're just scared? In most cases, it's the best thing to move forward. A person's just scared. You have to tell yourself, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I'm worth this success.
Sabotage, but I feel like I'm doing things that sabotage the forward movement in some of those clutch moments. Would that be the self-worth piece too?
That's exactly what it would be. Exactly. Because it causes you to change how you think about something. Right? So this is why it's so important to set a goal beyond your immediate decisions. And then you have to make decisions based on what it is that's going to get me to that goal. Right? And then make those decisions. And you only change them if the data shows that they need to be changed in some way, not the emotion.
Good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Great. Next question is coming from Chad Smith.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful, thank you. Today brought a lot of things together, which is wonderful. My question is, in the last exercise you had us do, what am I grateful for, and where are the opportunities to help others, I think, or for me to help others? In the previous exercise, I identified a role of a helper or a people pleaser, and it really hit home where you said people who are in that role, the pandemic kind of threw us up in the air really hard, because I've been in that role all my life, just in different capacities. So with the question, where is the opportunity for me to help others? Is that not still me leaning into being that helper? Like, how would I have the balance of being okay helping myself? Because that, I understand, is one of the things I'll sacrifice. I'll jump in. Someone calls me, I'll go to you, but sometimes I neglect or negate taking care of the needs.
That's it right there. When you help somebody else in neglect of what you need, it's never healthy.
Yeah.
Right? So you never neglect yourself to put somebody else first. I mean, maybe in a life and death situation, you might do something like that, but not in regular situations. Because the more healthy you can be, the more you get your needs met, the more you have to bring to other people. So that's the defining line right there.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah, because when you talked about the core wound of abandonment, I went, bam, bam, that's it.
Yeah,
and so
that's a big one.
That's why I want to help others, right? So I feel worthy and I give too much of myself.
Right.
So, cool. Thank you very much. Really appreciate this.
You're very welcome.
Next question is coming from Vasari.
Hi, David.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. This is great. You actually literally saved my life. I think the second day, during the second day. And I have two questions.
Okay.
So thank you. So the first would be, when you asked to write about how can I help others, what can I do? I honestly could think about only one thing. I couldn't think about anything else. So how can I find more things? How can I help?
Maybe there isn't anything else for you to do right now. Maybe it is just that one thing, right? Maybe that one thing is something that is very unique to you, or it's vital that you do it. Don't think about more things until you complete the one thing that you've got.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So my next question is actually quite related, because I have my fingers in so many pies. I'm literally starting so many ideas, doing something, and I see it's something that doesn't work, and then I switch to another. I have so many ideas, and I only I managed to write one that could help others. But how can I maybe filter all the ideas and all the things I started?
Well, so I think the idea is this. You're obviously a very creative person. So number one, one of the greatest things that I learned from my mentor was pick the thing that is going to be most beneficial to you, usually from a financial perspective or from a resource perspective, because that will allow you to be able to do the other things, okay? So you're going to take the thing that's number one best for you right now, and you start that. As you're doing that, the other things that you want to do, you want to start writing all of them down, and then you want to start organizing them in order of importance and when it is the best time to actually start doing something else. So you don't forfeit the thing that you're doing now, you add to it, and you add to it by what is the most logical thing that needs to go next. But never stop writing them down, because not everything's going to be good, but there's probably real genius in some of the stuff that you're writing down, and you don't want it to get away. Like Earl Nightingale used to say, ideas are like slippery fish. If you don't gaff them with the end of a pencil, they'll very easily wiggle away and you'll never see them again.
Well, yeah, actually, I have lists and lists of ideas, and this is one of the things I think I really struggle is to distinguish which one is good. So now you said to choose one is the most, let's say, beneficial and financially beneficial. So how would I know?
I don't know. I mean, I have to actually look at them with you. So if you don't know, ask somebody for their opinion. And let me just give a caveat here. I'm saying the most financially beneficial if it is in the hierarchy of what you need to do has to financially benefit you right now in your life. I don't even know that that's true. I'm making that up completely. For many people, that's true. If that's not true, then you're going to look at it by what is the thing that is going to benefit you the most based on what you do know, right? And then you start that thing first. And then you write everything else down and you start integrating those things as you go.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, it gave me lots of clarity.
Great.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, everyone. I'm not seeing any other names in here for questions, so we just want to take this time and thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here with you for 90 minutes for 4 days in a row. We hope that you decide to join us at the Art of Success Summit, October 13th through 15th. And you know, again, your replays are available on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, subscribe to David's account. We've got lots of resources on that page at the same time. You'll see lots and lots of videos. You'll get the replays there as well as in your inbox tomorrow morning. And I think the replays are usually posted by around 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. So if you want them sooner rather than later, go right to YouTube. If you're willing to wait for your email tomorrow. All right, everybody. We hope to see you very soon, mid-October. We wish you nothing but the best. And we'll end by saying bye for now.